we're going to talk about how to avoid the muddle in the middle. Um, it's a big challenge for many writers and especially first time writers. So I thought I'd go through some things you can do to keep that from happening as you're writing. So, in the first part of your mystery, the second act is pretty much focused on your sleuth discovering the victim's world. He meets the suspects, he finds clues, he interviews suspects, he tries to put the pieces together, and when you get to the midpoint, it's not working. It's just not working. So as I mentioned before, I like to work with a 4-act structure. So one of the things you can do as you approach your third act is to really focus on what's happening now. Um, so at the midpoint, it isn't just the middle, but the story pivots. And in a mystery, the sleuth has spent that first half doing all that discovery work, and after the midpoint, it's just not working. Sleuth may discover they're going down the wrong path and has to rethink everything. And also, he may be so discouraged that he thinks about giving up. So don't be afraid to put that in. And just as you pass the midpoint, your sleuth is just like, man, nothing is working. All right. So, but here in the third act, as you get into that third act, this is where the muddle gets muddled. And the third act is often the weak point in a mystery. So you need to think about ways your detective is not seeing the whole picture. And this is also why you want to make sure that you're raising the tension, that each complication has just, the stakes are just a little bit higher. Because you want to keep your reader engaged with what's happening now. So Act 3 is like the crisis. Your sleuth looks for a new approach to solving the puzzle, and it just doesn't go well. Your sleuth has to re-examine everything that happened in Act 2. Clues may be false, suspects haven't revealed the truth, and in the background, the villain, now still one of the suspects, works to keep the sleuth from discovering the misdeed. So this act has a lot going on, and you can really focus on building tension in this act. So if you add complications and twists to the subplots as well, you're going to extend the characters and echo themes in the story. So there's a lot you can do in the third act. One of the things I find is that new writers always try to like rush to the end. They want to reveal the villain, but just keep it like as you're writing in the here and now, what's happening now in this third act. The first thing that's going to happen is there's going to be a pinch point, which is about the middle of Act 3. And your sleuth discovers once again that the new direction they chose after the midpoint is not getting the results they want, and the undiscovered villain may set a trap that confuses the sleuth, and your sleuth realizes he's in over his head. It's just nothing is making sense. Nothing. Every avenue he pursues doesn't work. So now your sleuth has to gather forces, rethink things, possibly find new support, discover new evidence, and somehow get closer to discovering the murderer. And as they examined old evidence, they may find new information or have a fresh approach to looking at that old evidence. Um, it was looking at things they may have overlooked before. So now at this pinch point, your sleuth is now on a new discovery. So we have the second act is discovering the victim's world. And at the midpoint, the sleuth realizes that what they were doing so far wasn't working very well, so they take a new direction. And now at the pinch point, they take another new direction. So we have new complications and a new discovery discovery path. The killer antagonist is going to be putting up smoke screens so everything your sleuth thought he leads nowhere. Your sleuth just has to rethink. They need to clear their vision of the world and take a new approach. This is the third time your sleuth is going to be baffled and needs to rethink everything. Okay, and then finally you're going to get to Act 4 with the climax and the wrap-up. And, of course, in Act 4 there's rising conflict because he's getting closer and closer and closer to the villain. And finally there's the revelation. Ha! This is the person who did it. And then you want to very quickly wrap up any loose ends. I suggest wrapping up your subplots before the revelation so you have a very, very quick ending after the revelation, because mystery readers are reading to solve the mystery. And if you add too much after that happens, they're going to leave with, they often don't know why, but they're going to leave with, I don't know, it just didn't feel right. So make sure you wrap it up quickly after that final reveal. But while you're writing, this is what I want to stress today, is while you're writing, you can keep yourself from having everything all muddled, because you can think of the plot points as tent poles. So rather than trying to get to the end, just get to that next plot point. Just get to that next plot point and focus on, one, making new complications for your sleuth, and two, with each complication, raising the stakes. Your sleuth is going to lose more each time there's a complication. Otherwise your story is going to feel very episodic. So you want to just raise the stakes each time. So in this way, each section is going to be clear. You're going to have a clear goal for that section, which is getting to the next plot point. But while you're doing it, you're building a rich, detailed story by raising the stakes, asking questions, building new conflicts, and giving your sleuth a lot of trouble. That is the main thing that happens in Act 3, is trouble comes from every direction. And if you think of Act 3 that way, I think you're going to avoid, episodic kind of Act 3, and it won't feel muddled. It feels like at each time your sleuth is in a direction. It may be the wrong direction, but we don't know that yet. Your reader doesn't know that yet. Your sleuth is pursuing a new path. So give your sleuth lots of challenges. Make things complicated. Add your twists. And absolutely do not be afraid to threaten your detective, redirect their focus, and toss in complications that are tougher and harder for your sleuth. Give your sleuth a bad time. This is the place to do it, is Act 3. And I think if you focus on those actions in your story, you're going to avoid that middle muddle that happens so many times with new writers. And you'll find that writing each section builds intrigue and adds excitement to your story. Okay, that's it. I hope that helps. And I just wanted to bring you up to date on what's going on with Audible, who's a sponsor of Write a Killer Mystery. I'm listening to a story called The Silence, written by, let me check her name again so I don't say it wrong, Kendra Elliott. And it's a story that takes place right here in Oregon where I live, and so it's kind of fun to read that. And very fun for me because I've mentioned before that I'm working on a new series with a sheriff's detective working here in my part of Oregon, which is Washington County. So it's really fun for me to listen to The Silence on Audible. And don't forget, there's a link below where you can sign up for a 30-day free trial and give it a try. I think Audible is a great way for writers to explore new novels and learn a lot about writing while they're doing whatever. I go out in the garden and weed, do things, and and doing household chores and that sort of thing. So, um, if you're interested, please check the link below because I'm very honored to have Audible as a sponsor of Write a Killer Mystery. So work on that third act, make it exciting, give your detective lots of trouble, and I will see you next time.